I've gotten this question, what is it like living with an INTJ? And I've had other people answer this question, or at least I've seen other answers to it, and it's completely different from mine. Now, my husband is INTJ. He tested INTJ in every test he's taken. And some people are of the mind that if you live with an INTJ, you get a lot of personal space and a lot of time to yourself, and it's very quiet. That's the complete opposite with me. My INTJ loves being by himself, but he's way more extroverted than even I am. There are times where he wants to spend time with me and I am all extroverted out. He is currently out of commission because he was putting something behind my chair. I didn't see him. He went behind me and I didn't know that he was passing by my chair. The chair has a lean back mechanism. I do that from time to time when I'm resting. So I lean my chair back, just as I was moving to reposition myself. He happened to be passing at that time. And so the dog was going under his legs. Just a lot of stuff was happening. He ended up falling and bending his knee outward on my trampoline, my rebounder that I use for exercise. And long and short of it, he's on crutches right now and I'm taking care of him. And he's super needy. But because he's confined to his room right now because he can't move around a whole lot, that's why I hardly see him. And we were having an issue where I was dealing with the dogs. Everything just happened all at once. Dog had surgery, another dog had a limp, so I have to carry them down the stairs. We live on the second floor. It's been pandemonium, and I also had a leg injury from an exercise, and it's just a lot. So when I was dealing with all of that, he's like, you didn't watch a movie with me, and I wanted to watch stuff with you and play the game with you, and at that moment in time, I told him, I need to be away from everything, including you right now. And he got very heartbroken. He was like, but I wanted to watch this with you. And I'm like, I'm just overwhelmed right now. I had that long lecture with my dad about having kids. It's just like, I just need some space. I haven't had any me time yet. And I know he's felt that way sometimes too. I think the difference between us though is when he does get like that, he gets overloaded very easily too if there's a lot going on. So I try to give him his space, and I more so will entertain myself and confine myself, and he'll recover very fast from it. He needs like half an hour, and then he'll come and want to spend time with me or come in my room while he's talking, and he'll want to jump into a call with a million people on a Discord server, the Discord server we're both a part of, and he'll be fine talking for hours. I get tired out very quickly. I can talk for like 15 minutes to half an hour if it's something I really, really like, maybe an hour. And then after that, I hate people. I just don't want to talk. I don't want to see anyone, just the act of talking alone. So that's where we're kind of different. So when it comes to like social stuff, he's way more extroverted than I am. It's definitely not quiet. I think a lot of it has to do with culture as well. He grew up in a Hispanic family. He's Italian Hispanic, but he grew up with his Puerto Rican side. His mother, his sister, people he lived in the hood. So he has a lot of that influence. And because of that culture and that nature, he more so, I guess, was socialized better. Even though socially, I'm more intuitive, but he's not. But when it comes to how it drains us, he seems to be less drained socially than I get. Me, I was an only child for 11 years, and in my country, I basically played by myself. Like, I had one other friend, my best friend, Andre, and we would play together, but if he wasn't around, and his mother used to lock him in the house sometimes, I would play by the window with him until his mother came home, and then just play by myself most of the time. 99% of the time, I was by myself. Completely happy by myself. I never needed people. I never had friends. I never needed friends. I only really got friends to that degree. Like, I had people who were friends with me, but I just saw them as associates, not friends, and I had one other best friend who I grew up with, who I considered like a sister to me. And I used to go over to her house, but she didn't live with me, so I only saw her on occasion. Then when I went to junior high, and my last year of junior high, when I decided I didn't want to be bullied anymore, that's when people started being my friends. So I need people a lot less than he does. He also likes to share his knowledge. Living with an INTJ is like living with someone who is very, very capable and loves to be dependent, to have people dependent on them. They like to also save money. So anywhere that my husband can save money, he will strive to learn how to do that so he can save money and be better and help people, because part of his pride is showing people how capable he is in being able to pass that knowledge on to others. We don't have kids. Both of us don't want kids. So in his way, his accomplishment is being comfortable and living on this life happy and being able to share knowledge with his family and friends. Me, I just learn things to enjoy them. And if somebody needs my help, then I will give it to them. But he has a little bit of an ego. And as soon as I know it's going to happen, as soon as he's learned something, if like, for example, fixing cars, I knew more about cars than he did. And that wasn't a lot. I knew more about cars than he did. I taught him how to drive, and or at least I initially started. I taught him how, to get familiar with the vehicle, gave him some driving lessons, and then he went and took some more lessons on his own. After that, I know part of his ego is he did not like the fact that he didn't know much about the vehicle that he was handling. Also, I knew a little bit more than him. He's very competitive that way. So he taught himself by watching videos and learning how to work on cars. So he saved a lot of money for both of us learning to do stuff himself. I bought him a welder. He already knows how to solder. I bought him a welder for his birthday, and he was very happy, and he spent the entire day. We went to Lowe's, got some sheet metal. He wanted to practice on that because the car that we bought, the little beater that we bought, so we could use that in the winter and not ruin the newer cars, it had bad rocker panels. And the rest of the car was great. It's just that it had eaten out rocker panels. And he learned how to weld in one day after watching those videos. And he said, all right, I'm ready. And so the next day, he went under the car, welded up those rocker panels, still good as new. He learned how to protect the car from rust. He learned about the batteries, and he learned about how to change the, basic stuff, basic mechanics like the rotors, just stuff that you don't need a lift for. He can do everything. He learned masonry. He learned carpentry. Think of anything you could think of. He got tools for it. He learned it. We saved hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. He can do basic electrical work. He's like my uncle. My uncle's also an INTJ. My uncle also does the same thing where he'll save money. INTJs are very frugal, and if they don't have to throw away their money, they would rather learn how to do themselves to save a lot of money. So living with an INTJ, you're gonna live with someone who's very capable mechanically. With some INTJs, it may not be exactly mechanics. It could be programming, which my husband also knows how to do. He's a programmer. I mean, he's like a superhero. There's nothing he can do. Nothing he can't do. He's super pragmatic. I love him to death, man. He's so freaking hot. To me, that's just one of the things that attracted me about him. I'm more the creative side, and he loves me because of how creative I am. But I love him because of how tech savvy and logical and pragmatic he is, and it's just so hot. I'm nerdy in a gamer, odd, hippie-ish kind of way. And I love tech stuff, but I don't know a lot about tech. I can learn how to fix stuff myself. I can learn and sit down. I don't like doing it, but if I have to learn how to hack a game or to program something myself, I can learn it. Do I want to? No, programming is very hard. It takes a long time to learn freaking code. And what happens is, because he's around, he's like, oh, no, I got this. I know a big part of it. He loves being able to help me. It makes him feel good. And so I let him help me, and I can concentrate on my creative stuff, where he's like, no, let your decks. I call him daddy. I know, it's weird to some people, it's our thing. Anyway, I let him deal with that. My mic arm fell, and I was like, you know what? He's busy with his program and whatever he's doing with his bot, so let me learn how to do it myself. He comes along, he's like, no, you're gonna mess it up. You're not gonna know how to do it properly. It needs a brace. It needs to be done this way. Let your daddy get this. I was like, ooh, okay, Poppy, okay. Go ahead, and I don't mind it. INFPs can be very independent, but if we find someone that is capable, someone who we can follow, somebody who we respect, we often will let them take the lead. We're leaders when we have to be, very good leaders when we have to be, but we don't like being in the leader role. INTJs are kind of the same way, but with an INFP-INTJ relationship, what will usually happen is the INTJ, especially if it's male or female, it doesn't matter, they will usually take the leader role. And I'm totally okay with that because they're just smarter with a lot of things. I love it, and I'm totally okay saying that. So there's a comfort living with an INTJ knowing that he's got everything. The taxes, my daddy used to do my taxes, and now he takes care of it. My husband takes care of it. He doesn't do the taxes. He has them. My dad's an accountant, but we have one that we do locally because my dad has so many clients. I mean, we're just burdening him at this point. So my husband has another tax side. He takes the stuff too, but my husband has an Excel sheet, all the number stuff that has to do with our purchases, our write-offs. I don't have to take care of any of that. Having an INTJ as a partner takes so much of that burden off of you, especially INFPs don't like numbers. We don't like numbers. We don't like math. All the stuff that has to do with logistics, we hate it. We'll do it if we have to, but we really don't want to. He's very good at that. It's not as stressful for him doing it because it naturally comes to him to do that kind of stuff. Me making a whole Excel spreadsheet, I would just go in Word document, or I would just slide off of it, to be honest. He's on top of it. I mean, on top of it. It just makes me feel so grateful that he's there. I don't take that for granted at all, because I know if I was living on my own, I would have to do all that stuff and it would be very, very annoying. And I have someone who's willing to do it because he actually likes doing it and he's a natural at it. Having an INTJ also, especially a mature INTJ, you will save a lot of money. I know I'm kind of redundant with this, but I have to reiterate it because they will find ways to save money. Even if they don't learn to do things on their own, they will try to find the best deals on stuff. Shopping with them is fun because they're like, no, the meat goes on sale on Friday. Why are we spending this much money for meat? Paying double when on Fridays it's on sale. It's probably worse meat, but still, it is nice having that around. It's nice having an INTJ around also because they kind of redirect you when you want to do something. It can be annoying sometimes when they're always like, well, did you try this? You can't do that because of such and such. It's good to have that conversation with them as an INFP so that they don't negatively shoot down your dreams, but allow them to poke holes in your arguments, because sometimes you'll have an idea and you're like, I can do this. And the INTJ will come back and say, that doesn't make sense. Even if you want to do this, what's your end goal? Where's the market for this? Nobody's going to want to do that. Everybody else is doing that. You're going to get buried. And then you're like, maybe I don't want to waste my time doing this then. Or maybe you do because you just want to do it. There are things that he told me about and I just wasn't thinking all the way there. I was thinking long term, but I wasn't thinking logistically. And he put my mind into that mindset, and I agreed with him that, yeah, that's probably not the best thing. And there were things where the things that had to do with me being more creative, I was right about that, and he was wrong because he didn't have the creative mindset to see where I was going with this, and that's why I became successful in that, and he came back and told me he was wrong. So that is very nice having that. On the flip side, having an INFP around, you get to have a different perspective on things as well, where you would only think of things logically. You're able to have a wider perspective because you can also think of things creatively, intuitively. It's a great matchup. It is really a great matchup, and I always joke around and tell people the only reason there aren't more INFP INTJ relationships is because oftentimes they're both shy and won't tell each other they like each other, and they'll just never get to bed. It's like having two pandas together. It's hell and high water to get them to mate because they're both so freaking shy or clueless. Let's see, what else is there? They're very lovey-dovey as well. All the INTJs I've dated one other INTJ, the other one was just a crush, but the INTJ I was with before and my husband are very romantic. Like, you would never tell. They're like super cold and villainy and dark to everybody on the outside. They'll joke around with their friends, but if you try to get like really close to them, they kind of look at you like, why are you talking to me? And then when you poke through that and you get to know them and they fall in love with you then you have to tell them you like them. In both cases, and all three cases, actually four, the other one was a crush. One was an emo guy that ended up, after I told him that I liked him and he liked me and that didn't work. There's another one who was at school and he had liked me the whole time. I admitted to him, yeah, I liked you back in high school. And he's like, are you serious? I had a crush on you the whole time too. I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, I was shy. He's like, I was shy too. And then he's like, well, okay, now that we like each other, I mean, now we know. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm in a relationship with someone. I mean, it wasn't really a relationship. I was kind of ending it with that person, but still, like, I didn't want to start something else before I completely cut off the other person. And it was too late anyway. That person's a different state. It was too late. We're two different people. But in all cases, I've had to come out and say something because I know they never would. My husband, I was terrified, and I knew I liked him, and I knew he liked me too. You can pick that up. It's clear. And his best friend, who's an INTP, was trying to hook us up, by being like, yeah, well, he's all soft on the inside, even though he has a hard exterior. And then he would go to his friend and say stuff about me. And then I knew he was recording me one of the times, his INTP friend. He's like, yeah, so what do you like about this, this person? And I'm like, well, I like that because I would open up to him and I knew he was recording me and he played it back for him. I'm like, you bastard. But something inside me is like, what if he's recording this? I bet you he's recording this. I don't care. Because yeah, I wanted to hear it. So at that point, he knew that I liked him and he liked me too. And he was super shy and he didn't want to say anything. And I pulled him to the side and I told him, I said, hey, I have to talk to you. But like for months, I'm like, I was sweating bullets. You don't understand the mental strength I had to muster and the bravery I had to summon from Valhalla to tell this guy that I liked him because he's super intimidating to me. So pulled him off to the side of Discord and like, yeah, so I want to tell you something. And it's very difficult. He's like, yeah. And I hate when they do that. It's the way they say it, and you're like, shit, this is about to happen, and I can't take it back. I'm reliving it right now. That's why I'm blushing. It's so embarrassing. So I'm like, I like you. And then he starts going into, yeah, well, you know, scientifically, such and such. And I'm like, no, I like you. Like, I have feelings. And he's like, oh. Then there's like silence. And I'm like, I want to hang up the phone so badly. And then he's like, wow, I'm really flattered. And then it's like, he didn't know what to say. And he was like, you know, you're kind of out of my league and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know, I'm your boss and we have to be professional. And I'm like, yeah. And basically, he was basically telling me it's not going to happen because it just can't happen. I'm like, you're right. Okay. Not long after that, I swear to you, like, we didn't even hang up the phone. 5 minutes after, he starts asking me a whole bunch of unprofessional questions. Now the INTJ interview begins. Now that it's been established that this girl likes me from the INTJ's perspective, now I can pursue. And that's what will happen. If you tell an INTJ you like them, they will not pursue you. They'll pursue you in other ways, and that's what he would do. He'd play music for me. Certain things that guys would do to impress girls. They won't come out and say, hey, I like you. But they'll do everything to show you that they like you. But then after, now he can be more comfortable now that I've told him that I liked him. Now he sees I'm vulnerable, and he even told me, he's like, I'm very impressed. I would have been very scared to admit that to you. So he starts asking me a whole bunch of questions, and it's not the typical kind of questions like, what's your favorite color? INTJs don't do that. They ask you questions. What's your views on this? You know, what's your views on that? If this happened, how would you respond? It's like basically like a job interview. They want to know if you are a proper mate for them. They want to know if your values align with their values, or our values align with each other's values. So I answer the questions. I asked him questions too. And then after a while, then yeah, we started, you know, stuff happened. But now we're here. So, yeah, after that happened, like a completely different person, very sweet, super, super loving, more loving, lovey-dovey than I am in many ways. So what you see on the exterior to people who are strangers, they don't show that, or they show a different side when you're living with them. Everyone thinks that when you're with them, it's just gonna be a cold day in hell and this like calculator living in the next room. It's not like that at all. Of course, all people are different. It depends on your culture and your upbringing. I know that my grandmother's husband, they are both dead now, but he was an INTJ as well. Super boring. Oh my God. Like, we like talking about history, but when he talks to people, he literally talks like this. So, how are you guys doing today? Oh, we're fine, MJ, we're fine. Well, what did the cat say to the dog? And that, I'm not lying to you, that's exactly how he used to talk. And my grandmother's children couldn't stand him because they thought he was the most boring person in the world. But my grandma loved him to death. Like, she literally loved him to the death. He went to the hospital one day for one problem and then just died out of nowhere, and then she got COVID and she died shortly after. I think she died of a broken heart, but I'm pretty sure that when he was with her alone and we weren't around, he was probably a completely different person. She fell in love with him for a reason. And it wasn't what he was showing us, trust me. So it's just something to note. That's basically it. If there's specific questions you want to ask, sure. I'm sure you'd like to hear from his perspective what it's like living with an INFP, but you'll never have a dull moment with an INFP, I can tell you that. You'll never, the emotions, it's a ride. It's a wild, you'll always have something new and weird and strange. We're just weird. If you imagine us as cat aliens, it would help you swallow us a little bit better, if that makes sense. Anyways, thanks for watching.